Robyn was enraged. Robyn or any of his children would not receive any property from Kody Brown, as he had made clear. Robyn found it tough to accept this decision. However, Aurora Brown, Robyn's daughter, is totally impartial. She is not involved in this property problem because Kody will marry her. However, Robyn's heart was churning. When she finally lost control, she protested to save her own life by grabbing Kody by the throat. It seemed as though all of the relationship's complexities, love, treachery, and thirst for money, were exposed at once. Family was everything, Robyn had always thought. For years, she had battled to maintain her position in Kody Brown's world, putting their family's needs ahead of her own goals and aspirations. However, the basis of their love started to reveal fractures as the years went by. Kody's pledges seemed to have no weight, and his decisions were always final. When Kody made his most recent statement one evening, everything came to a head. He had made the decision that Robyn and all of his other spouses would not receive any of his assets. Nothing, no house, no land. Only his biological offspring would inherit his money, which had been earned through years of hardship and hard work. Robyn's world was suddenly much smaller, and her heart fell. Now it all looked so flimsy, the home they shared, the life they had created, the future she had dreamed of. Robyn was enraged. She had made numerous sacrifices for Kody, their kids, and their family. Because of his choices, her own life had been put on wait, and her dreams had been buried. She could no longer stand to be informed that she would get nothing in return, that the guy she had dedicated her life to and loved would abandon her. Aurora, her daughter, was sitting calmly in the room's corner. She had never taken sides in the complicated dynamics of the Brown family and had always maintained her neutrality. Since Kody was going to be her husband, she had no stake in the property issue. Aurora, however, could sense the tempest building inside her mother. Robyn's emotions swirled: betrayal, rage, resentment, and a strong sense of unfairness. The rug seems to have been ripped out from under her. Property wasn't the only issue here. It had to do with the years she'd been in a relationship that didn't seem to give her anything back. Yes, it was about love, but it was more about the brutality of being ignored. Robyn reached for Kody mindlessly. In a desperate attempt to convey to him the extent of her suffering, she tightened her fingers around his neck and seized him by the throat. Her protests were filled with years of suppressed emotion, and her voice cracked as she spoke. "How could you do this to me, Kody? After everything, after all I've given you? What am I left with? Nothing." Kody stood motionless, a look of astonishment and disbelief on his face. Robyn had never looked like this to him. Although he had always been in charge and set the rules, Robyn was in charge at that precise moment. Aurora hurried forward, attempting to yank Robyn away from Kody with shaking hands. However, Robyn was totally overcome by her rage. She had the impression that all she had fought for and suffered was being ripped away in a single ruthless blow. It seemed as if every nuance of their connection was exposed at that very moment. The years of hardship and sacrifice, the love they had shared, and now the betrayal and greed that was smoldering beneath the surface. The sorrow, the disappointment, the knowledge that the life she had sacrificed so much for might never be enough. Robyn felt it all. Her chest heaving under the weight of her feelings, she finally let go. With tears running down her cheeks, she took a step back. Kody stepped back too, his face going pale, still in shock. Nobody wanted to hear Aurora's comments, which were hardly audible above a whisper. "This isn't just about property, is it? It's about everything we've been through, everything we thought we had." Robyn nodded, her heart exploding once more. "It's about everything, Aurora. Everything we've lost. And everything I still want but will never have." Robyn came to the realization that her bonds with Kody were less than she had previously thought. What she had once believed to be an unbreakable love now appeared to be brittle and broken. All that remained was the hollow echo of unfulfilled promises as the future she had imagined slipped away, and the family was forced to confront the reality as the night wore on, the burden of the past bearing down on them. Nothing, not even love, could defeat the powers of greed and treachery. There was no turning back once the bonds that held them together were severed. But in exasperation, Kody Brown gripped his hair as he sat in his empty living room. The once lively household, full with several spouses and continuous banter, was suddenly eerily quiet. Now that Mary, Janelle, and Christine were gone, it was just him and Robyn. "Robyn, you're exhausting me. Every time I turn around, there's another Amazon box at the door," Kody exclaimed, pacing back and forth. "One more pricey trinket. We lack the funds to execute this." Robyn brushed away a tear as she sat on the luxurious couch she had just ordered online, saying, "Kody, I do this for us. For our family. Please, I need some shopping therapy." Kody grumbled, rubbing his temples. "Retail therapy? There's hardly any family remaining. You alienated everyone." Robyn wasn't paying attention, though, because she had a plan in place. If Kody was feeling overburdened, perhaps she could assist by bringing in additional wives, which would increase his income, which would then allow her to go shopping more. Loving, caring, and financially responsible man seeks new wives for a strong, faithful family, Robyn wrote in her profile on a polygamy matching website the following morning while she was seated at her computer, conveniently omitting Kody's outbursts and financial difficulties. She eagerly showed Kody the profiles of 3 possible brides that night. "Look, Kody. This person is a boutique owner. This one also works as a financial advisor. Just think of the steadiness they could provide." "You're enlisting wives just to keep shopping," Kody exclaimed. "No, I'm just trying to rebuild our family," Robyn said, batting her eyes. "For you, Kody, perhaps this wasn't such a bad idea after all," Kody thought as he exhaled and looked at the laptop screen. But Kody Brown sat alone himself in his large but eerily silent house. Months had passed since his formal separation from Mary, and although he had told himself it was for the best, a spooky void persisted. Their marriage had been troubled for years, but the finality of it still troubled him. After years of feeling emotionally distant and undervalued, Mary, on the other hand, had embraced her newfound independence with a surprising zeal. She had moved into a charming little house on the outskirts of Flagstaff, where she found comfort in reading, gardening, and reestablishing relationships with old friends. "Hey, I was in the area," Kody texted Mary one evening as she was enjoying tea on her porch. "Do you want to speak?" She hesitated for a moment before replying, "Sure, but only as friends, will we?" He appeared different when Kody got there, more reserved, even remorseful. "You look happy," he remarked, attempting a tiny smile. "I am," she said, acknowledging that it took some time for her to recognize that she deserved better than to wait for someone to show concern. With a sigh, Kody combed his hair and said, "I never meant to hurt you." "I understand," she murmured softly, "but sometimes it's not enough to not mean to." The weight of years between them weighed on them as they sat in silence for a minute, until Mary laughed quietly and said, "You know, I don't hate you, Kody. I just finally love myself enough to move on." It hurt, but Kody knew she was right, and for the first time in a long time, he saw the woman he had once fallen in love with, not as a wife he had abandoned, but as someone who had regained her strength. As he drove off, Kody came to the realization that sometimes the best love stories are about letting go rather than holding on. But Mary had lived for years in the shadow of a marriage that no longer seemed like home, in a household where she frequently felt like an outsider. But tonight something was different. She stood at the entrance of her new existence, the chilly evening breeze rubbing against her face. Janelle and Christine sat together, their bond unbroken, while Robyn lingered close to Kody, her presence a reminder of the unspoken divisions between them all. The family had convened for what should have been a routine discussion, one of those tense, carefully measured conversations where emotions ran high but real change rarely followed. The words Mary had to say were simple, but they carried a great deal of weight, and she had practiced this moment 100 times in her mind. Finally, in a steady yet forceful voice, she stated, "I've decided it's time for me to move on." Even though Mary had long since ceased looking at Kody's face for approval, his expression was unreadable. Robyn gave her a sad, knowing glance, and Christine nodded slightly, as though she had been anticipating this all along. Nobody made an effort to stop her. This wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. As she stepped outdoors, a single snowflake fell on her cheek, cold and transient, like the love she had held onto for so long. She inhaled deeply, allowing the cool night air to fill her lungs. She felt free for the first time in years. But Savannah Brown, the quiet and frequently ignored daughter of Kody and Janelle, was finally graduating from high school, so it was supposed to be a happy day. The air was humming with anticipation as family members arrived, but there was tension underneath because, well, this was the Brown family, and nothing ever goes as planned. In spite of her tense relationship with the family, Mary made an attempt to attend, but the real question was whether Kody would show up. Janelle had spent weeks planning for this moment, wanting everything to be perfect for Savannah, who had frequently felt like an afterthought in the midst of her father's chaotic polygamous lifestyle. Christine and her children arrived first, beaming and eager to celebrate. Savannah's eyes kept flitting toward the entrance as the ceremony got underway, but her mother comforted her by holding her hand and saying, "If he comes, he comes. If not, you still have our utmost admiration." The doors at the rear of the auditorium opened just minutes before Savannah's name was called, and Kody, with his trademark curls a little unkempt, walked in beside Robyn. The air became heavy with unspoken words. Janelle's lips tensed, Christine rolled her eyes, and Savannah? She merely sighed, as though she had expected nothing less. The message was clear: she had grown up, with or without her father. Savannah looked directly at him as she crossed the stage to get her diploma, and he smiled, but she only gave him a short nod before heading to her mother and brothers for the real celebration. Naturally, the drama wasn't over. At the after-party, Kody attempted to speak about how proud he was, but Janelle interrupted him, saying sharply, "This is Savannah's day, not yours." The room fell silent, and although Kody appeared surprised, he didn't argue for once. Instead, Savannah stepped forward and raised her glass. She spoke in a firm voice, "To new beginnings," adding, "and to the people who showed up." The evening concluded with tears, laughter, and an unsaid realization. Drama or not, Savannah was taking charge of her own destiny, and for the first time, she was in charge of her own narrative. But although the Brown family had always been out of the ordinary, their meticulously constructed structure started to fall apart over time. Kody had always had a particular place in his heart for Mary, the first wife who had been his partner in every way and had helped him through the highs and lows of their polygamous life. But as the years went by, their relationship evolved. Janelle and Christine had long since learned to carve out their own spaces, balancing the complexity of their plural marriage. But Mary thought that Robyn, the newest wife, had a different energy, gentle, persuasive, and perhaps more in line with Kody's changing wishes. At a family dinner one evening, the tension was nearly intolerable, and Mary sat at the far end of the table, her gaze flitting between Robyn and Kody, who were having a private chat, while Janelle and Christine looked at each other, feeling the underlying strain. Mary was in the kitchen after dinner, idly drying a dish, when Christine came over and said, "Are you okay?" "I don't know if I belong here anymore," Mary sighed. "You'll always belong, but maybe not in the way you once did," Christine said after hesitating. Though it hurt, the understanding offered clarity, and Mary realized Christine was right. The relationship had changed, and no matter how hard she tried, Kody's affection had moved elsewhere. It was time to decide whether to let go or continue to hold on. She remained in bed alone that night and decided that she would speak to Kody tomorrow, not to ask for his love, but to regain her own happiness. But although the Browns had always taken pride in their unity, the past year had been anything but peaceful, and with Kody fighting to keep the family together and tensions between the sister wives growing, change was unavoidable.